Hello and welcome to On the Fly Television. I am your host, of course, Dennis Gleason, and welcome to the show. As I've said numerous times, we have very special episodes, and today is definitely no exception to that rule. I have with me a very good friend of mine. I have David Bishop. How you doing, David?
Thank you.
I think you're commonly referred to as Chief David Bishop,
well,
right?
Sometimes and other things, but thank you.
We've known each other for so many years, it's hard to delineate when I have to call you Chief and when I don't.
Right.
So you're just about ready to retire.
Yes,
And that's got to be somewhat exciting for you.
It's one of those things. It's mixed feelings.
Sure.
One being I've been in this business a long time, so yes, I'm looking forward to the opportunity to retire. But you have to be honest, and there's going to be things you're going to miss too, because
Sure.
it becomes part of your life. And but it's time, and I'm looking forward to the next phase of life.
Okay, so you must have a whole plethora of plans for when you retire. I'm assuming that the first couple of weeks will be just lounging around the house if your wife allows you to. Knowing her, she probably won't. But what is your things you're going to do after you've had a chance to chill a little bit from after being in this job for as many years as you have been?
Well, unfortunately, or fortunately, I will still be involved in some things that are ongoing.
Okay.
Example, St. Mary's Boys Home. I'm on the board or chair of the board
Okay.
for St. Mary's. That's a real gratifying position because
Sure.
we're not only servicing the boys, but we're also in the process of selecting a new director for that position. I will continue to serve on the governor's Homeland Security Commission. I'll finish that up through his term.
Okay.
And I'm also very active and involved with the International Chiefs of Police on our victim assistance program. That we were a pilot program, and now it's become a national, and we're going to roll it out to the nation in November of this year.
And you're part of that, obviously.
I'm part of that, and I'm hoping, and I say hoping because I haven't firmed up anything.
Sure.
But I'm hoping to continue doing that with the International Chiefs. That's a very, it's become probably one of the programs that I'm probably the most proud of in my career. And
Good.
Yeah, so I'll be continuing with that.
So now, obviously, you and I have worked with the Police Activities League for many years, and then, of course, now that it's been annexed into Portland, how much involvement, if any, are you in with them now?
Good question. I will, I'm on their board,
Okay.
and I will continue to serve on their board.
All right.
That's
Good.
But that's not as, you're not as committed to that. That's, you have once a month meeting. And,
Right.
So it's fairly easy, but the others I identified are more higher energy, would be a nice way to put it.
There you go. And I'm on the advisory board, I guess is what they call it, where you basically support what now is called the Beaverton Police Activities League again.
Yes, right.
I did the youth boxing TV program to help accent some of the boxing comes out of that building, and hopefully sometime in the near future, hopefully those people watching want the second episode, send me a holler, so we can continue to be involved with that. I'm sure you'll be with it forever somehow or another, which is good.
And as you know, because I was a PAL boy, I come from the PAL. I mean, I grew up in the PAL program.
Right.
And you mentioned the program is real close to my heart,
Yeah.
as it is yours, and that's the boxing program.
Yeah.
And we're very gifted. We have a couple boxers coming out of that program that probably one day will be nationally recognized.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
and it's the coaches there are as committed, if not more so, anybody I've ever worked with.
Yeah,
And
Charlie and Jamie are a couple of the ones I know the most.
Exactly.
And Efren, I think, is probably one of those kids that you're referring to. And Junior is really, really good. I think they both went to nationals recently. So yeah.
And I would expect that one day we'll be watching them on national TV.
Sure. And some people don't know, but people like Muhammad Ali and General Powell and Bill Cosby and stuff like that, some very well-known celebrities have been involved with PAL, so it's always good to have that association. Yes. So you need it. So
get that in, right.
we got to get that plug in. You always got to get that in, right? So.
But I think even more important, though, than the celebrities, which is important to show what they have done or accomplished.
Right.
But I think it's really important for those that have very little, if anything, giving them the opportunity, because I think when you go through school, and I remember when I went through school, athletics was very important. I had the pleasure of being involved and enjoyed it very much. And I think today, without the athletics, I might not be where I'm at today, because it taught me a lot about the dealing with life. But I think that not everybody's going to make it in basketball, football,
Sure.
baseball, and high school. PAL Club is kind of another source for the young people that maybe aren't going to make it there, but can do very well in the PAL program.
Sure.
And in some respects, maybe even better in long or big picture.
Long term. So now, because you were a PAL kid yourself, how much would you contribute your current success in life to the PAL? Or would you be able to quantify? You're in a lot of different things.
Absolutely, no question. At a national conference one time, I gave a speech. And I talked about a young man growing up. And I talked about this young man who grew up in lower southeast Portland. I talked about how many hubcaps he could account for, and many other things he probably did that fortunately the statute of limitation is long past. But this young man, I'm not sure where he would have been today if it hadn't been for PAL.
Sure.
And when I said at that national conference I spoke at, that same young man I'm talking about happens to be the chief of police that stands before you today.
Right.
So I think without the PAL Club, I have no idea where it'd be, but I know that a Portland police officer by the name of Mickey Pease, who took me under his wing and watched me very close and worked with me, without him, I don't know where I'd be today. And he contributed more than I could ever imagine, and I was just so proud to work with him.
Isn't it amazing how such a little amount of effort on the part of an adult in a child's life, and obviously my PA and my son aren't really children anymore, they're 15, they're young adults, but still they're still working on becoming successful adults, how little amount of effort it takes to do such a positive thing for them.
Well, I think that, that's really a good point, because everything we do has an impact on somebody.
Right.
Everything we say, everything we do. And sometimes we have to be really careful, and particularly in a position like mine, where I oftentimes, because you know me very well, I have a sense of humor that some people don't understand.
Slightly dry sometimes, but I like it.
Dry, and I jab at people. And I found out in recent years that some of those people, those young officers I walked by, and I would make fun or jab at them, that they really took me serious, and I didn't realize it until later.
Yeah.
And so you've got to be real cautious and careful and know your audience.
Right.
And so today I'm very careful when I talk to some of these young people that I work with, and know your audience, as you say, we've known each other a long time.
Right.
And we've had the pleasure of jabbing each other in a very friendly way, in
Right.
a positive way, in a loving way. And but you got to know who you're dealing with.
Right. And with the kids, obviously, especially if they're at risk, I used to be a professional mentor, which I was really getting done with when I first joined the PAL. The amount of time it takes to be a personal, mentor with somebody, it takes like 180 hours of program time. I mean, sometimes you get calls at 3 in the morning. Sometimes it's a parent, sometimes it's them, sometimes it's the police department calling, saying, hey, we got your kid here, and I'm like thinking, well, why didn't you call your parents first? And apparently, they, in this particular case, he's grown up to be a really outstanding member of the community, but at the time, I was like more important to them than his parents because of the value I was providing for him. And it's really unfortunate that has to have someone like myself or anyone that's actually had the chance to mentor a young man or a young woman that needs that extra care because they're not getting it at home. But I'm glad that all the years I've been able to help a lot of kids. So.
For many years I thought the term, it takes a village to raise a child, I thought that was kind of an overkill.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that if it takes a village, but I'm certain, based on my experience, it takes more than just a family to raise a child.
Sure.
It's it's whether it's your teachers, whether it's your coaches, whether it's your friends, police officers, on and on.
Right.
Any one of those could have a major impact on which direction you choose to go.
Sure. And look at our school systems. I mean, really honestly, a child, after they get to a certain age, they go to school, they leave your home, and now the parents have lost their connection with their child because they're no longer in that situation. And now you're at school, and now the friends, the teacher, the resource officer that might be in the school the music video that they're watching, the internet that they're being able to surf onto. Those are the people that are putting programming in our kids' head.
Exactly.
And then they come back home to mom and dad, which sometimes is a stick in the mud.
Yeah.
And so I think it's more important that we understand not only that it does take a lot of people, but also make sure that we don't necessarily shelter them completely from real life, because I think they'll be unprepared, but at least make sure we foster the right type of experiences.
Exactly, and basically point them in the right direction,
Right.
because
Yeah.
when they're growing up, they're going to make some decisions, and you have to give them that opportunity, and just make sure that whoever they're associating with are helping them make the right decisions.
Right, and that's really tough to even know what's the right thing anymore, because sometimes the lines are drawn a little bit too blurry.
Well, and I think today, different than when I grew up, and even when you grew up, the challenges are so different because of the computer, the websites, the internet, so on.
Definitely.
I mean, we didn't deal with those challenges. I mean, and the other thing is we didn't have a lot of drugs in those days.
Right.
We didn't have a lot of gangs. I mean, sure, you had differences, and you went in the back of the school and you might have had a little
A couple tussles here and there.
but you didn't have the knives, you didn't have the guns,
Right.
and you didn't have to worry about somebody coming back at a later time, drive-by shootings, etc.
Sure.
And so it's really a different time. I often kid, as we all do, that to my people and to my kids, that how I walked to school uphill both ways in the snow, and barefoot, of course.
Barefoot, gotta
And,
be barefoot.
Right. But that's a little stretch. I did walk to school, but it wasn't barefoot.
It wasn't barefoot.
It wasn't.
16 miles each direction. But it wasn't
I went to
barefoot.
Cleveland High School, and it was the only thing I could count on and know for a fact. It was always going to be raining.
Yeah, there you go.
It was always raining. But other than that, but it was a different time. You didn't have cell phones.
Sure.
Many of the things, and those are not to suggest that those are negative. But it does, when I'm sitting with my grandkids, and you're trying to communicate, and they're texting 5 different other people, and you're wondering, but surprisingly, they hear everything you say.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's, I guess it's high tech is good, but it's also has its negatives as well.
Sure.
Particularly us in law enforcement. I mean, it's brought a lot more challenges as far as crime.
Well, I know that some of the challenges might be because although I never became an officer, I pursued it for many years and then decided to go for the public sector. But I know one of the challenges, people being on their cell phones, sitting there talking, texting, while they're trying to drive. It's like, I'll be honest, I've done that sometimes before, but I try really hard to pull over.
Yeah.
I'll put my cell phone on my
Shoulder,
seatbelt,
right.
and I'll put it on speakerphone so I can sit here and still pay attention to driving, because I'm too cheap to buy my 5th Bluetooth this year, and I'm aware of how late.
Now, you said that and I didn't. Just for the record, you said it.
There's nothing about me that's a secret to anybody. I'm willing to admit the truth if it is really the truth. So
I've known him for a long time, and he's never bought my lunch, and he's owed it to me for years.
Yeah, you owe me Blazer tickets. I want to remind you of that too.
Oh, gosh. Well,
I'll tell you what, I'll buy you lunch while you take me to the Blazers house.
Okay, well,
Fair swap.
next season, I guarantee you,
Okay.
I'll have the time then.
Oh, yes, you will, won't you? Because
I
you're
had
retired.
a lot of opportunities to go this year, and it's embarrassing because I have some very close friends that are with the Blazers, and I didn't go to one game last year.
Yeah.
I turned down a lot of them. It's just, my kids went, my grandkids went.
Sure,
but,
well, that's important too.
But I just, because of so much going on, I just never took the time or had the time.
Well, see, now you have plenty of opportunity, don't you?
Go to go.
Now you run
Yeah.
excuses. Which one I didn't want to go. I
That's
didn't know
right.
which one to go to. It was just
Right.
so many options for me.
Yeah, I'll be there
I know
now.
your wife will kick you out of the house enough times where you'll have to go a
Yep,
few of them.
yep, I'll be there. I'll be there.
Well, I work with the Blazers once in a while indirectly because I work with Wells Fargo, and people know I've done the Teach Kids to Save Day, and Wells Fargo is a major sponsor now with them. And Jerome Kersey's daughter is actually on Portland Teen Idol, which I'm the producer of, and so we get a lot of different connections, obviously, with both Kersey and Bobby Groves and Michael Harper and folks that you and I have worked with over the
Right.
years
Yeah.
through the Pal Club. So we have plenty of opportunities to meet them. But
Yeah, they're very good friends.
Yeah.
And Bobby's the one that's always after me to go to the ball games, and I'm sometimes embarrassed. I turn him down so much, and he's such a nice person.
well, you can't do that anymore.
No, I won't do it.
I'll call him up and say, "Hey, Bobby, invite him.
I'll be there.
Tell him to invite Dennis too."
We'll go.
There you go.
Sure.
So You mentioned some of the programs that you're involved in now that you plan on doing after you retire. Are there some things that you don't involve yourself in now, or not hardly at all, that you might find yourself getting more involved with after you retire?
You mean as far as the agency?
Agencies, your sports, whatever. It doesn't really matter what it's really involved in.
You know, I haven't, and everybody asks when I'm going to start slowing down and pulling back.
I don't see you doing that.
And that hasn't happened, and I officially retire next Monday.
Next Monday, so a week from today.
Right, but that's my official retirement date.
Sure.
But I've agreed to stay on for an additional 3 months as chief on a contract.
Sure.
So I'll be here for at least another 3 months. And so I guess I'm using that as the excuse when I'll start pulling back. I have some very competent command staff, and I'm starting to feed more to them. Sure. And in particular my deputy chief. But I'm looking at different programs, and today every Monday we have a captain's meeting, and I am pushing more their way. Sure. And but I know that I've got to really personally pull back from, like this week I think I'm out 3 nights this week, and we got a swearing in tonight of new officers. Tomorrow night I got a retirement for an officer that I worked with before, and then Wednesday night I have another meeting. So, well, on Saturday night I have
lots of things going on.
Yeah, so I have a lot of night meetings, but I keep explaining to everybody that I'm going to pull back from those, and
sure.
And I intend on doing it. Just some of the things I enjoy doing. When it's dealing with the public, I like being out there and meeting and working with them.
And that's important, because obviously we want to make sure that the person that represents the law enforcement part of a community is willing to get up. Yeah, exactly. Because sometimes, I mean, I have a couple agencies out mine, but I'm not going to mention them, that the police chief sits back and does their job, and they're maybe very effective at doing their job, but they're not very public. And they let their officers, their lieutenants, or their sergeants do all the work, and that's really hard for a community, especially if you're talking about the officers, because they don't feel their management is really backing them.
Yeah, I think that's a very good assessment. I think that, and I certainly don't want to glorify myself, but I think when you talk about the Beaverton Police Department, when you're the chief, or any department, you become the face of that department.
I agree.
And you've got to be out there. People expect to see you, meet you, and talk to you. I was out today, and had people come up to me and talk about, some of them thought I already retired, and I told them I did, that I just wear the uniform because I miss it. That's not totally true. Trust me, once I officially retire, I will hang up the uniform. I won't.
You'll have it in a little glass case.
Yeah.
This is what it used to be.
Well, my youngest grandson, he don't refer to my uniform as my uniform. He calls it Papa's costume. So he thinks it's my costume. So I have to explain to him.
Are you a professional actor?
Yeah, that's what he thinks. It's my costume. No, unless I wasn't. But after this interview, who knows?
Exactly. See, my email address is being put up throughout the show, so if you guys want to get a hold of Dave and you want to say, hey, we want to hire you to do a commercial, or if you want to have him come and do your movie, hook me up. I'll get a hold of him for you. I'll screen them, keeping you from getting spam or anything like that. You contact me, and I'll hook you up with Dave if I think you're a credible person, and we'll get you on some screen other than just cable access. But
make sure you don't get me into a show like Dancing with the Stars or whatever. Those shows I don't do.
Mark that off the list.
Yeah. A friend of mine that everybody knows, Clyde Drexler, was on that show, and I was with Clyde probably about 3 months ago now, I guess. And he told me that wasn't a lot of fun.
It wasn't?
Was not. It was. It was very intense, and of course the disadvantage with Clyde was his height and being with a young lady that wasn't much more than 5 foot.
Sure.
So I mean, he had really a challenge. I mean, he enjoyed the show and liked doing it, but the work he had to do to try and adjust was more than he expected.
And I've worked with Clyde, or I volunteered for the quarterback shootout before, where Barkley and those folks, all the basketball players, have gone into before, and I'd be go around with them, making sure doing the Marshall thing, and it's just really some embarrassment. I'm 6'2", and I'm still looking up to these gentlemen, and I'd be like, "It's so cool. You scare me a little bit, but you're so cool." So,
but they're just good people.
yeah, exactly. And that's just it too, is understanding that behind the glitter and behind the stuff that sometimes you put up there, they're just regular people.
Regular people.
Yeah.
And Clyde would be the first one to tell you that. I mean, and Maurice, Lucas, and some of those.
Yeah, Maurice, which we worked a lot with,
Right.
with Pal as well. So.
Right. So they want to be recognized as being just regular people.
Sure.
Although some of those basketball players do make a lot more money than police officers.
You've got to be joking me. Can you imagine that, folks? Can you imagine actually a professional football player making more than a police chief? Oh, come on. You're so much more important than a basketball player. Not knocking basketball players and their entertainment value, but...
But you know, we had that discussion with the newspaper just before you came in. And that being negative, because I appreciate athletics very much. But it's our society. Sometimes you have to question. We pay an athlete $14 million a year to put a ball through a basket or throw a football. When we ask our men and women in law enforcement and or teachers or whatever, but particularly law enforcement, they go out there in the middle of the night and many times risk their life
Sure.
for actually pennies on the dollars. And
Yeah.
so if you really look at the value of what you gain out of you really have to wonder
Sure.
why we don't establish our priorities so different.
And I can see...
Not because I'm a chief of police. That's really what I believe.
Sure, and I agree 100%. I mean, you look at teachers, for instance. I mean, not going to get on my soapbox too much. I have an axe to grind. I'm going to do a little bit of fine tuning today. I know that, like for instance, teachers I've worked with a lot in the past because obviously I work with kids, and I used to spend a lot of time with DECA, and these teachers that put their lives and their souls into teaching our future leaders of America, future corporate or political leaders, or just even an everyday person that comes to the door to making sure they're somewhat educated. And some teachers get paid very, very little for what's considered to be an extraneous effort. And I'm not downplaying ball players or any professional activity, because they do get paid a lot for some good reasons, because the best is just that, the best. And part of what actually helps law enforcement to a point is keeping people entertained, is actually keeping the peace, so to speak.
Right.
And it also gives things for kids to aspire to. I mean, if you don't have someone up there that is so far up there and so almost untouchable that they wouldn't have a goal. So there's a lot of positive that can come out of it too.
No,
but
I agree.
I definitely agree that sometimes I think we pay people just a smidge more than what is necessary.
And in the most part, you're absolutely right. The majority of them are good role models. Occasionally, you'll get one that's counterproductive, that is really not
Sure.
everything he or she should be. But I think for the most part they are. And the ones I've had and the ones you've had the opportunity to deal with have been very positive.
Right.
And have had, and I think we go back to what we talked about before, having an impact on somebody's life. I think the people that we talked about, the Maurices, the Drexlers, the Grosses, the Harpers, I think those people have had a very, very definite impact on
Sure.
many people's lives.
And I'm glad that they actually take the time, effort. A lot of these people are really involved in themselves or their careers, and for some of these gentlemen to step out of their comfort zone and to put themselves into a position where there's no value gained to them to participate. And before you and I met back in 2000, I actually was with the Police Activities League in Portland.
Mm-hmm.
Back when I was in college, I was an intern through them, and so I did some programs and helped out a little bit with them. And so I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of really talented individuals, and I'm every day I'm just so impressed by those people that are willing to step out of their box and do it, not just because they think they have to, but because they want to.
Exactly. And I think the overall Blazer organization, and I'm talking about the present organization,
Right.
has really taken it to the next level of going, for no better term, we call it community policing. I'd call it, in their case, community basketball. They've taken it back to the community. And
Sure.
I think that, and they will benefit in the long run, as we did in community policing. And I think so. It's positive on both sides.
Sure.
The community benefits and they benefit.
So now, we talked about the police activities several times, but is there anything specific that you had in mind that you wanted to do with PAL after you retire? Officially retire, let me clear that by that.
No, I think the PAL Club isn't going in the right direction. I think it's a very positive what they're doing.
Okay.
I think Beaverton PAL, and because I'm here,
Right.
I think they're kind of going back to their boxing program, is kind of the highlight and kind of the benchmark that I would like to see.
Sure.
And if we, if we had more money, could we do more? Absolutely.
Sure.
And
Anyone could do more, probably.
And I'd
if
like
the
to
truth.
see more. I think that
Sure.
I don't think we're still hitting all the young people we could be hitting
Oh, certainly.
and helping. And I think I think there always will be opportunities for us to continue to build. I mean, whether it's the computer rooms or whatever,
Right.
it's a changing time, and I think we have to change with that time.
Sure.
When I was at PAL a few years ago,
Just a few years ago, folks.
years ago,
Just a smidge,
yeah.
too.
It was primarily at that time, it was just a boxing program.
Right.
And it was at Knott Street Community Center. And it's expanded now to where it has all the different sports, football, basketball, etc., which I think is really, really gratifying. We have not extended to that level out here,
Right.
but I certainly someday hope it will. So would I like to see more? Absolutely. But unfortunately, it's dollars and cents.
Sure.
And that money is all, basically it's all donated money.
Right.
A
Right.
few grants, but it's the people that support the program. And they've been very generous. This is not in any way to say we're not getting, well, we always can use more, but
Right.
The people have been very generous, and so that I thank them.
Yeah. And of course, I obviously want to continue to participate in the program too. Time gets me all the time. I mean, keep on saying, how many times can I say time one more time during this interview? So when I look at what I have to do, I look at, okay, well, what is my goal? Where am I going to provide the most amount of value? Sometimes out of obligation, I find myself doing things that, really could have been more diverted somewhere else.
Yep.
I used to put in a lot of time with PAL, and of course there's people that put in more time than I did by quite a bit. But that's something I want to try to step up if, opportunity arises to do that. So, and maybe you'll have some time to spend more in PAL than you used to before.
Well, for two reasons. Number one, because I really enjoy it.
Right.
The other reason, because I'll probably become more involved in the physical part of it, working out in the bags and doing some of those things that.
Keep yourself tip-top shape.
Yeah, and those are things that.
Junior will take it, you know that.
I know that. I know that. He's fast. I've watched those hands.
Amazing.
Yeah, his hands are fast. But those are, I would be doing it for two reasons, and helping out with the coaching if and when they, would want me to.
Sure. And you can help pay for it when they go off on the different things
There you
too.
go. There you go.
Always have that extra advantage
Or
there.
go with them.
Or go with them. Well,
Yeah,
that too.
yeah,
That would be perfect.
I'd love doing that.
I mean, that's the difference. That's the ultimate representation, right?
Yeah.
Where you take someone that helped develop a program and then
Go with
physically
them.
go with them
Yeah.
to help accomplish their goals. Yeah. Because it's easy to push paper. It's not easy to actually now take that paper and file it.
Exactly.
So there's probably a lot of kids that are out there watching this eventually, either between this play and the who knows how many times we replay them. Is there any message that you'd like to give to kids specifically?
Well, I think that I think the same things I tell the young people I hire. Be willing to take risk, do what's right, do what's legal, and do what's ethical. And if you follow that pattern, you will be successful. You won't get hurt, and you won't hurt anybody. And I say take risk, I think that's important because you have to take risk. And I'm talking about positive risk, not doing things that are the negative, but the positives. And growing up in an environment in Portland that wasn't a wealthy environment, I can appreciate that where a lot of young people come from. And you can be whatever you want to be. You have to really believe that. And I know that I've attended many schools over the years, and I went to one motivation school one time. They said, you can do anything you want to do. I was driving back it was up in Mount Hood. I'm driving by the Coliseum, and at that time the Coliseum, not the Rose Garden. And the Blazers were going to the championship, and I thought for a minute, if I can do anything I want to do, why don't I stop and go tell Jack Ramsey I want to play basketball? And I realized there are limitations, but you can really, truly, as a young person, wherever you set that goal, you can make it if you are willing to devote the time and the energy. Nothing should hold you back. And I really truly believe that more than anybody. And I think in some respects I've proven that. And that's the advice I would give.
Well, thank you very much for that
Thank
inspirational
you.
advice. So we're about ready to wrap up. We're getting pretty close to our 30 minutes.
Okay.
Just a reminder, folks, just as Dave said, sorry, Chief Bishop said, is that cable access is an opportunity for everyone to get involved with your community. It's an opportunity for you to shoot for your goals. If you're a singer, or if you're a musician, or if you're an actor or actress, what have you, and if you're interested in getting experience, then why not check out your cable access, locations? I mean, if you live in the Portland metropolitan area, there's like 5 different locations to go to. This specifically is being filmed through TVCTV, and there's Portland Cable Media, there's Clackamas, there's Metro East over on the east side of, in the Multnomah County area. So many opportunities for you that all you need to do is ask, pursue a little bit, but as soon as you start asking questions, you'll be able to get where you want to go. So check out your local cable stations, or go online and ask for your local phone or your local television station. Say, hey, where's the closest cable access station that I can get involved with? And chances are they might know that, and you can get involved with them. But we're running down our time, so we're going to call it quits here in just a second. Any last words you'd like to say, Chief?
Nope, I just thank you for your support over the years. You're a good friend. I've enjoyed working with you.
Same here.
And I will continue to work with you. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.